Well, today is November 1st, 2023. We always start with our disclaimer, go over our calls, and make some predictions. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, November 2nd, 2023. Remember, I can be completely wrong. Any trade you make should be made at your own risk. We had lower targets. We said unless we gapped up strongly, they should print. We gapped up strongly, so no call. We get to cross an old price target off the list, 41.9732. That printed right here, support under that number. These numbers should print at some time. They just don't have to print it anytime soon. Look for the pattern with the early high, and tomorrow should also have the pattern with the early high. This is just what we said. During the day, MEJT did give a sell signal, but gave an optionally higher target too. So we got our typical Fed whipsaw. We did trade higher, we did lower, and those have all been satisfied. This move up was called false by the system. It didn't stick. The first move after the announcement was higher. And typically that means the next major move of the market is going to be up. And there is support at this level, 42.1139, and slightly under it. None of this requires us to go up tomorrow. In fact, if we're going to go up tomorrow, we're pretty much going to have to gap, or I think we could pull back. We have resistance at today's high by a number of factors. First, here's your 200-day moving average. We've come right up to it. If we gap over it, we can just continue higher. We also have a major league trend line here by connecting these highs, the low of this gap, this low. That's a pretty important trend line, and you've come up to it in a straight line. When you come up to it in a straight line, either you gap over it or the line wins. Meaning if we don't gap over it and you move over, it won't stick. Doesn't mean you won't gap over it, but that's what you pretty much have to do. And it's going to make that a little bit hard, as we can now count this as an A, B, C, with C equal to 1.618 times A. I'm certain there are other ways to count this too, but that's a lot of resistance right here. So tomorrow's pattern has the early high. It's just a question of whether you clear this resistance by gapping over. If you don't, we should pull back. There is support around 42.1139, but I still have these lower price targets. Even though they're not required to print now, they should print at some time. And I still, as I said earlier, would like to have some kind of retest of this low. Doesn't mean I get it now. Doesn't mean I get it at all. We're just at one of those times after this huge rally where you rallied right up to resistance and you have to keep it going or have a pullback of some kind. So tomorrow's pattern has really high. Typically it's a bearish day with a low in the final hour. If it's strong and steady, we should see more strength in the days to come. There's strong resistance at today's high, and we rally to it in a straight line. The rally is to continue unabated. We have to gap over that resistance. And if we don't, I think we'll see lower prices. It's not a guarantee that we close lower. But it's a pattern with the early high. If we don't gap over this, I think we'll have a pullback. Just a question of how far. If we do gap over it, I think we can keep going. And that's today's call.